self-criticism it's been pretty harsh, Ryan, but it's not without merit. Georgia last season won the conference championship, but they lost 4 games. First time they lost that many games since 2019, I think it was. They lost 3 games. So it was a difficult season at Georgia, but Glenn Schumann, Georgia's defensive coordinator and probably soon to be head coach of a very good program somewhere, had this to say. You got your quote yet, or you want me to press pause?
I'm looking for the more specific. But look, he was cut and dry. He didn't feel like they met their standard last year because of how inconsistent they were.
Yeah,
he didn't think that
right.
They met their standard because of what happened in the first half of the Alabama game. I think right there they didn't meet their standard. He didn't feel like they met their standard when they played Mississippi State and allowed 31 points at home to a team that was really poor in the conference a year ago. They've got a taste of what it's like to just outright dominate, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and they want it to be like that all of the time. But look, the conversation today was centered around numbers with Glenn Schumann. Some stats were presented to him, and he was asked if these stats can be misleading. He said, no, the stats tell you something. And then he got back to the coach speak, and he said, we can't look at a stat and use it as a justification for why we weren't meeting our standard. Yeah, it's exactly. Very cut and dry.
It's just the statistics are a reality.
Yeah.
Like, it is what it is. We can't fire the scoreboard operator. They gave up too many points in too many games. The Alabama game, the Mississippi State game, the Georgia Tech game.
I've got the
Go ahead.
You start rationalizing stats, then you're just making excuses for 100%. A performance that wasn't up to our standard.
100%. It is what it is. I mean, there's no shame in giving up 20 points if it was appropriate to give up 20 points. If your offense fumbled the ball at the 8 or, whatever.
Playing 2019 LSU.
Yeah, okay, great example. They gave up 37 there. They gave up 40. So, they're either the standard is the standard or not. They didn't meet the standard last year. They won the league, but they didn't win the national championship. Now, would they have slowed Ohio State? I don't think so, but that's me. But, there were way too many situations last year, not just on the defensive side of the ball, but the offense, more often than not, did not hit what should have been the standard. I will say, certainly looking back on it, I don't know if the offense had the ability to do what people have grown accustomed to. There were way too many variables there, and this is way too good of a deal to pass up. 3 months of dog post, the 2025 season preview, $15. Hit the QR code. Don't be selfish. Don't steal from yourself as this time is running out to get this offer, okay?
Life is short. Subscribe to dog posts. That might be Dean's first tattoo.
We don't do needles. We're not doing needles in the Leggy household unless it's a mandatory thing. Take advantage of this while you can. And Georgia's got to take advantage of their situation, Ryan. In 23, they were the best team in the country. They didn't win the national championship. I can't, that happens. A season ago, there were more times that they could have, there were some games they could have won that they didn't. Some of that's sports. But now, you kind of drag on. You never know when your run ends. 2022 is not as close as it was, and so I think if they're going to get back to the standard that they talk about, complete domination. I know what the score, I know that the game is over midway in the third or even before that. I can start focusing on certain things that I got to do, yada yada. That's not been there, and it started tailing off in 23 a little bit. But 24 it was a real fight. Now will they start ascending back to the way they were? I don't know. They got to go prove it.
Yeah, I think some of this, is derived from seeing Alabama have an actual dynasty in the 2010s, and then Kirby goes to Georgia, and it doesn't really take that long to spur something special up, and especially from the Georgia fan base, the hope is that they're going to have at least a decade where they're in the fight and winning some of these national championships. Are they going to win 6 in whatever span that Saban did at Alabama? That's a lot to ask, but can they get 2 more in the next 5 years? That would be more than good enough, right?
I think they can.
That's the standard. 23 I think that they did hit their standard, except for one day, right? They didn't hit their standard in that one day. There's 12, 13 people in a room that decided they weren't one of the 4 best teams in college football, and that's the situation.
Amazing.
That's the situation that they were dealt. Some of it was out of their control, but at the end of the day, they could have won that game, and things would have been different. They would have had an opportunity to try and go 3-peat and play that Michigan team, but they've got so much young talent. This team, what doesn't change is 5-star, high 4-star.
They're just young.
They're just younger and they haven't played, and so there's a mystery. When you look at this defense, though, you look at the linebacker room and you say there's probably not a better linebacker room in college football. If there is, there's only 1 or 2 or 3 out there that can compete with them. Like Texas has a good one, and LSU, Clemson, those programs have really good linebacker rooms. You look at the secondary, there's only a couple secondaries out there with as talented a player as KJ Bolden in it, right? You think about Ohio State having Caleb Downs.
Excuse me, yeah.
You look on the defensive line, that's where a little bit more of the mystery lies, but they've got 4-star, 5-star, all of these guys, and were practiced the other day, freaky athletes, right, on that defensive front. Now, there are freaky athletes at a lot of places, but all of them at Georgia, every single one of them, and that's why they rotate so much, because they have so many talented players. It's execution. It'll come down to execution.
Well,
it's not because they don't have very talented football players.
I don't know I think it was Mike that was talking about execution today too. But like, there's no question. But execution is coaching. I mean, like, getting guys to execute consistently is coaching, and you got to be coachable. But it's about building depth. If you want to, that's a misnomer in today's college football, comparatively speaking, to what it once was. But getting guys to execute, like right now is the time to do that, because there's just nothing about it. You can't. It's harder during the season to develop. Right now is a critical time. Right now, we're going to offer you this T-shirt by supporting us through Red Zone. It really makes a difference. Look, it sure seems like this is a college football playoff team. We'll see. Guys like Paul Feinbaum has already anointed Georgia into that. They got to go do it. But when they do, inevitably, we got to travel. In order to travel, we have to, have support from folks like Red Zone. And we can't thank Scott and Minnie enough. They have been great. This shirt is, I wouldn't call it iconic, but it is going there quickly, I guess.
It's on its way to...
It's doing well, which is like, we did not bet on that part. We got that wrong. But there's not just that. There's other things to take a look at. Use the QR code to check out Red Zone, and specifically that shirt. This team, I think this team's got a chance that people nationally don't quite get, but things got to click. And there's plenty of people, like insiders. I don't know if it's wishful thinking or wishful sort of gossiping, but there is a lot of hope, cheer, whatever you want to call it, that this team has got what it needs, and the connectivity is there. They got to go prove it, though.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of wishful thinking at this point in the season as well, and they're getting their first look at these guys in a while. I think that in terms of the national doubt, for some reason, a lot of that hinges on Gunnar Stockton, and people just didn't think that they saw enough out of him in those 6 quarters. They didn't see enough.
That is extremely harsh.
I want to spend a whole other video talking about this, but it's weird that people were so confident in Carson Beck heading into 2023 compared to the way that they're confident heading into 2025 about Gunnar Stockton. Skeptical when they're in the exact same situation in terms of their year, but Gunnar has more important experience than Carson did. It's very interesting, and I think a lot boils down to the quarterback, and maybe, the headlines with Bobo and everything. Sometimes the national people, they don't know as much about specific situations. We don't know about specific situations in certain parts of the country. But this, at the top, which I think there are a handful of teams at the top that can probably win it this year, just looking ahead, Georgia should very firmly be in that conversation. If it's not, I think that's a little ignorant.
Well, this is a program that, Kirby, I was talking about on this ride, we're riding home, I was talking to you about it earlier. he wants something, he goes and gets it. And I think last year was a disappointment for them. I know it sounds crazy, and I know I gotta like hedge against even saying that, but it was disappointing on a lot of levels. That was not the way we're talking about standard. That's not the way that Georgia has been under Kirby. In 17, they were mowing through people. 18, to some degree, like a lot of last season was like 19. What happened in 19? The offense struggled. So if Georgia gets back to the way they have been in 23, 22 on offense, even 21, but certainly 23 and 22, those were some really good years of Georgia offense. They got to get there. Glenn Schumann was talking about the standard today, so I've kind of veered off in the offense. The defense has got to do a better job too. The Tech game, the State game, the Alabama first half before the adjustments. Like, Georgia's defense, it might be this year that the offense has kind of got to get going before the defense gets there. I don't know. This is a good team. I am very, for one, curious to see the first half of this Marshall game, because I think it will tell us a lot about this team. We'll see. Thanks for watching.